Welcome everyone, this is Misc. This is the show I do each and every Monday where I talk about the stuff that I have been listening to, reading, watching, or just experiencing over the last week. My name is Kyle, welcome. This week, I want to discuss Mindhunter. This is the new Netflix show that it's executive produced by David Fincher. It's also executive produced by Charlize Theron. But the first two episodes are also directed by David Fincher. And I want to sink my teeth into this because it's all I've been thinking about over the last couple of days. Before we do that though, what we need to do collectively as a group, hopefully you can trust me, we're all going to jump into my little time machine and go all the way back to the early 2000s to when the movie Zodiac came out. This is a movie I feel does not get its just dues. It is also about serial killers. It was also directed by David Fincher, and I think Mindhunter has a lot of inspiration from that movie. That movie specifically had Jake Gyllenhaal and a bunch of other famous people in it, like Robert Downey Jr., and the guy who plays the Hulk, Mark something, that I've completely forgotten his last name currently. It'll probably come back to me later on in this video, perhaps. That movie, what is so interesting about it is it's delving into the history of the Zodiac Killer without necessarily coming out and saying this is who the Zodiac Killer was, because there still is not a consensus on that. And what it's so brilliantly able to do is that it takes very insignificant moments and makes them so tension-filled. Specifically, there's this one thing where they are visiting this home, and they're just in the basement of the home. And the way that the sound designers and the way that David Fincher uses the camera, you think and you expect some awful thing to happen. And it never does. And so you feel better about that, but at the same time you're just so racked with anxiety that our main heroes are going to go and get murdered that you're just on the edge of your seat the entire time. It also very plainly shows these awful things happening in a very matter-of-fact way, and that in and of itself makes it all the more terrifying. And that aspect specifically is what I want to talk about Mindhunter with, because at least in the first 3 episodes, we are seeing our protagonists, these people who work for the FBI, who, and this is apparently based on a real story, but they are trying to figure out how serial killers work and are essentially writing the book on serial killers. They have no one else and no other resources to help them out. So they are the ones cobbling together all these different stories, trying to make a pathology out of them, and trying to use this information to help the FBI and other police agencies. And so they are going and interviewing all of these serial killers that they can find in and around California. And what's terrifying about it is that you are having these conversations with people who are just very nonchalantly talking about doing just awful things of like murder and beheadings and just really sexually depraved acts on corpses. And the terror and the horror comes from these people not really showing any remorse. It's like, yeah, I went and grabbed a cup of coffee and I drank it and then I went back to work. That's how they're explaining these terrible things. And that to me is terrifying in and of itself, to be able to be in a room with somebody who doesn't seem to understand that these are horrible things. I'm excited to see where the show goes to. I think that the real main character is, again, who's played by a guy who I just forgot his name of, but he was in Glee, he's been on Broadway a bunch of times. He's the right fit and he's the right pick for a person who is like plucky and wants to discover all these answers, but is a little bit naive himself. And so he's our little cipher into this world of depravity and plays it really well because all this stuff that he's learning is new to him and also new to us as the audience, or possibly new to us. I want to contrast this a little bit because I just saw the Jigsaw film, and I mentioned last week how I just watched all of the Saw films in a row. So I went and saw the new Jigsaw film, and I'm not going to belabor the point because if you saw last week's video, I'm basically going to be saying the same thing. This is a return to the Saw franchise. Tobin Bell is coming back as the Jigsaw character, and my feelings are kind of the same as I felt with the last half of the Saw franchise, where this is really just gratuitous violence for gratuitous violence sake. I don't feel as if it's adding anything really interesting or new to the franchise. I feel that it is not really delving into what makes the Saw franchise interesting in and of itself. The Jigsaw character is interesting because he lets people have choices. He lets people decide if they're going to live or die. And in this one, because, spoiler alert again, Jigsaw has been dead for so many years, we're kind of just left again with this regular serial killer who's just killing people in elaborate death traps. And I just don't really find that interesting. There are some, again, cool bits here and there, and just like with every film, they pull the rug out from underneath you at the very end and show you what was really going on. But I just wish the series would somehow be able to return back to that essential question of giving people a choice versus basic human decency, like allowing them to really struggle with that of, if we work together we would survive, but by myself I fail. Like, I need help from others, and it just doesn't seem that it's interested in exploring that any further. Anyways, those are my thoughts. I think what's more important, though, is what you think. So down in the comments below, if you've seen Mindhunter, if you saw the new Jigsaw film, let me know what your thoughts were down in the comments below, or what you think I should be watching or reading or experiencing in this upcoming week. So until next Monday, my name is Kyle. I'm sure we'll see each other again.